18 minutes after 3 o'clock Friday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Captain Dave's at Master Control. Kale's down here. Jeff's down here. Jeannie's down here. And our good friend Langston Moore joins us on the guest line now from his home in the Dallas Metroplex. Of course, the former Gamecock D lineman, team captain, longtime NFLer, husband, father, children's book author, softball expert, barbecue aficionado, and so much more. All right, you're an alum. You're a South Carolina lifer. We'll talk football, but the news that hit this morning, your reaction to Ray Tanner's announcement was what?
Wow. Timing. Wondering why about the timing. Was there, something else going on? But definitely didn't see this coming, especially, pulling back the camera a little bit, macro. We had some different pieces in the program itself, kind of moving around some guys that you thought, and I'm speaking specifically about guy Chance Miller moving on to Coastal Carolina. We saw some things, so kind of thought, man, well, maybe Ray got a second win, he's going to push on through, but definitely was something that with that combination of news being put out earlier this summer, and then feel okay, Ray probably has a good run, and then hiring of the baseball coach and different things. I just kind of felt maybe it was a little bit extended out, but definitely didn't see this coming. But again, the powers that be and the folks who make these decisions, especially at the university level, and again, who knows what's going on behind the scenes as far as maybe it's one of those deals with Ray. I was talking to somebody a little bit earlier today. This is the thing, when the time is up, the time is up. And a lot of people, we can go back to like the Spurrier, when folks are like, oh, he should have finished out, or oh, he should have, it's up in the air as far as what you think was the right thing and the wrong thing to do, and especially in the context of certain things. But these guys, Ray has obviously been a winner at the coaching level. He's done a lot to put our programs in a position to win and allow our coaches to win at different programs and different sports. But when it's over, it's over. So just be really interested to see, wondering about the timing of this, especially with everything going on with the football program and everything kind of on the cusp tomorrow morning. But definitely really interesting. And I'm sure it's been a buzz around Columbia, period. And, with everybody in town, Reese Davis and all these other folks, Pat McAfee, maybe they felt this was in no time better than ever than to announce it right there on the biggest platform. And maybe he could body slam Pat McAfee one good time while he still has his admin pin on or something like that. I don't know.
Well, if that happens, you know what? It'll all have been worth it. And we'll have some fun with that. Langston joins us. All right, let's get in. We'll have more on this throughout the afternoon. But like I say, we're not going to dwell on that because there is a massive football game. That's why game day's here, of course. Langston Moore. What do you remember, real quick? You were here. I think the first time that we ever had game day. I know that was not a great night.
Well, again, it's so long ago. It feels like a distant dream. Like, did that actually happen? But yeah, there was tape, but that actually happened. The 2001 season. Was a famous blackout game. I apologize to Gamecock Nation. I think we wore some black since then, but Spurrier definitely was like, we'll never wear that again. You remember why? Because I was the one on the other side just telling him to keep Grossman, throw it again. So yeah, it wasn't definitely good the last time I was around, but again, that was 2 decades ago, man. Who's counting? So let's figure out. Let's get some new blood in here. And there's been plenty of times in there between. The Missouri time last time wasn't too. Remember, I was there on the sideline for the broadcasting deal of it, but always an electric.
Yeah, why didn't you tell him to go for 2?
Because Steve Spurrier, back to that same point. Steve knows exactly what the hell he's talking about because he ain't never really been wrong. Whether it's been up 21-0 in Florida and he figures out a way to run fake punts, or when he was on the sideline for Carolina or against Carolina. So I let Steve be Steve, but it's going to be an electric atmosphere, as we know, so much buzz. And I love, and I think we were talking about this earlier, Jay, like I love the old school game day feel, because usually they set it up with game day where, okay, we have game day and there's a long gap. Maybe you might get the 3:30 late, SEC game, but it's going to be, I love, make the pick, put the hat on, throw the chicken in the air, do whatever it is, pick us, and let's roll straight into 2001. I like that so much better than kind of waiting the whole. It's great for the fans to wait, but let's get right to it.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and people, a lot more people around here, obviously not just excited because of game day's presence here in Columbia, South Carolina. That's a cool thing in its own, but getting to watch this defense play. I mean, that's the one thing right now. When I'm looking at the South Carolina football team is you've kind of established an early identity, right? Like your defense is smash mouth. It's tough. And you've got two guys on the edge, and Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart, who have more than lived up to the billing and single-handedly won you that game almost against Kentucky and looked as impressive as anybody in the Southeastern Conference has this year doing so. What do you see from that defense so far? And because I know I haven't had a chance to talk to you since the Kentucky game, but when you watch that game, what does that dominance kind of remind you of whenever you go back on the tape and you watch someone like Dylan Stewart get blocked by 3 Kentucky players to no avail, keeping them away from Brock Vandegrift?
Well, as I told my wife, they're holding. They're not blocking. They're holding. There's a difference because – and that's the thing. You can feel it through the TV, whether it's him, whether it's Tonka, and that's the thing. This thing gets really infectious because we've all, as a D-line group, we've all been in the room all off season. We've all been kind of working. Now, there are some guys in there who are a little bit more God-gifted than others, but that's the beauty of being young and being an elite athlete. You start to say, man, maybe I could pick up a little bit of that, and you start adding to that. Your confidence grows a little bit. It's just amazing when you look at like Steph Curry on any team that he's on. Everybody else and their mama think they can be out there shooting 3-pointers. Pump your brakes a little bit. But the whole point is you can feel that. 10 sacks, multiple tackles for a loss, this disruptive in the back. And you talked about it last time in the backfield. You talked about it last week, Jay, like trying to figure out different ways. It's the factor grade. There's a lot of different ways to be a factor. Yes, there's getting sacks on the ground, hits on the quarterback, but just living in the backfield and just making people really antsy and feeling it. One thing that I was really disappointed with last week was we didn't get those holding calls. And now, again, for whatever reason, you earn those holding calls. You earn those things, but it's interesting because we put those things on tape and they haven't been called. How much we'll start maybe kind of getting the benefit of the doubt. And there's no better place for us to kind of get some of those things than tomorrow. Home field advantage with our crowd rockets. They start seeing some things flying around, and then we start getting some extra calls. Again, I'll take sacks all day. I'll take hits on the quarterback all day. But getting those holding penalties and getting some of those phantom holding penalties because you have been more of the elite rusher team, the disruptive team, and it's been on tape because these referees are looking at these things too. There's human bias in there. That'll be in our favor as hopefully something we can put in our hat tomorrow to add up against beating this LSU team tomorrow.
This LSU offensive line, Langston, might be the best in the country. It's certainly one of them at bare minimum. And, these two tackles, All-American level types, are going to make a lot of money at the next level. And initially, I imagine that they're going to want to go one-on-one with the Gamecock D-line. That's something that Elijah and I have been talking about as a D-lineman yourself. Kind of take us through what you envision you're going to be going up against. And part B to this question, too, especially for Dylan Stewart as a youngster, you just sent a college athlete on to do what she's doing. We know that at that age, for any of us, we have very little fear, of what's out in front of us. So, A, how do you look at what LSU wants to do? B, how do you look at what Dylan Stewart wants to do?
Yeah, well, for our side, we want to try to get Dylan, as we have been doing, get him as comfortable as possible, meaning that, let's try to make this week 4 of your high school football game against Takes Creek High Tech, and you got one of their little girlfriends over there, you going out the shot. It's the same way. It might not be as easy, but we want you to get familiar, get your hand in her, get in the call, see ball, get ball. Now, again, we got to make sure that, like we talked about last week, teams aren't stupid. Brian Kelly's not a guy who's just going to let you get these free rushes out there. Even though he has premier tackles, he wants to let his guys get some things going. So look for some screen draws. Look for some things to try to just mess up timing a little bit, and especially on like the first kind of true third down situation. Will they try to do some different things to chip, or the arrogance of, I got 2 first-round guys, one guy probably going to be a top 10 guy. Let's see how this guy does against that. Because, again, with these 2 talented offensive tackles, they still only have a limited amount of starts. But it could be one of those deals of this factor that you come from a football factory in LSU and you're the next kind of plug-and-play guy. You've only started 17, 18 games, and if it wasn't for NCAA, you'd probably be in the pros right now. But the whole point is this guy's still a young guy, too, across the way from LSU. So look for them to figure out some different ways. This will be the most talented offensive line we faced in the last 2 weeks. We expected some things from Kentucky. For whatever reason, it didn't show itself. That's their problem. That's not our problem. But understand fortunately that Brian Kelly, Mr. Change my lingo, Mr. Bang on the table, All of that stuff is fun and jokes for us, but he is a good and solid coach, and he will figure out a way to challenge these guys. And so I wholeheartedly expect for them to figure out some different ways, whether it be try to slow it down with the run game, figure out some different things. But this is the great thing about being a defensive line and kind of having the line we have. It's not just one guy. So, yeah, it's been Dylan Stewart the last couple of Gilbert Edmonds, this would be a great time for you. Tonka Hemingway, this would be a great time for Kanard, you've been phenomenal. Go ahead and take over for the young guy right now, because that's the disadvantage between being an offensive lineman, where you kind of got to stand there and kind of take it. You might want to rotate out, but if you're going to be a top 15 guy, you want to stay in there and take it. But for the defensive line guys, let's keep rolling. And we've been doing a great job at the defensive line for the last couple of weeks of sneaking in reps and getting a lot of production from the second wave guys. And you really not having noticing it until you look down and be like, oh, that's not number 6. That's not number 5. That's not 91. That's the other wave of guys we got. Okay, we kind of got something right here. We got something.
Talking to Langston Moore, Carolina LSU tomorrow at noon. More on that one. Get some of Langston's thoughts on what's going on around the National Football League as well. And we got 3 pair of tickets to give away. So the first of them we're going to do right now. All you got to do is come here and say, hey, all right? And Jeff's going to give you his tickets. He's got the good one. No, I don't know where they are. But Jeff has them. So just come say hey to us here at Columbia Craft. You got to come in person. First person in here, you get a pair of tickets to tomorrow's game, and we'll do a couple more throughout the afternoon. Lots more to do from Columbia Craft in the Vista. This is the Postgame Show. Tell you about our good friends at Palmetto Propane and the Palmetto Propane Hearth and Patio Home Stores. Now is the time to start thinking about, getting warm. I know we got a little ways before it gets really chilly in Columbia, but when you have friends and family around the house, hey, a nice fire is always a welcoming little showplace. But maybe you're tired of the wood pile, the spiders and the bugs and everything else that might live around there. Well, the Palmetto Propane Hearth and Patio Home Stores have premium gas logs, or they also have things like gas lanterns and fire features for outdoors as well. Stop in and see any of these showrooms: Aiken, West Columbia, Batesburg, Lexington, Augusta. Since 1959, Palmetto Propane has been known for their expertise and experience of their trusted service technicians. From purchase to installation and service, they can help you out like they have for many, many years. Check them out online. Learn a whole lot more when you visit palmettopropane.com. 3:34 on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. We are broadcasting live today from Columbia Craft, where we are each and every home football Friday. Always fun to be down here. Come say hey. Again, the first, did we get that pair of tickets away already?
I think Jeff is in the process.
All right, so we have. Okay,
right
so pair number 1 is in the books. All right, so pair number 2 coming up in just a little bit. All right, so we will be doing that for you again. So if you were in the area already, well, just come on down and kind of hover, see what happens.
A little bit, like look at us like from afar, kind of stare a hole through us a little bit, and the creeper you can make it, the more inclined I'm going to be to give you tickets. So.
Langston Moore is with us from his home in Dallas as we look ahead to tomorrow's Carolina LSU game, get into a few NFL thoughts as well. I know you were an interior defensive lineman. Who especially in the NFL, who was the offensive lineman where you first went like, oh, I got to go up against him this weekend? Like, who was that first guy for you as a football player where you're not like scared or anything? I know you're not scared, but just like, all right, that guy's in front of me this weekend.
Of course, it was a guy I played against or played with. Willie Andrews was the offensive tackle, even though Auburn native, SEC guy, but like still one of those dudes that had one of those old crazy plastic, real jutted out face masks. But even though I didn't line up against him every day in practice, he was on my outside shoulder. So again, like just having that massive thing just kind of hover over me, that was always odd to just kind of have that dude in there at practice, but it kind of felt like friendly fire till I went out to Arizona and I played with another huge human being, a monster of a man named Leonard Davis, who's from Texas. Probably had to like melt 2 helmets together. And again, same thing. Leonard was like a gentle giant, but I saw Leonard one day get really mad at his coach. Leonard didn't get mad at his players, at his teammate. He got mad at his coach because his coach kept trying him, kept trying to get him pissed off at somebody's trying to. And I saw Leonard Davis scrape across and catch a linebacker, scraping across to catch a inside zone. He was coming left to right. The linebacker was coming right to left, and he split this man's helmet in 2, Jay. He cracked this man's helmet, and he walked off the field like, I told y'all I don't want to hurt nobody. Like, he didn't say those things, but it was like the Green Mile mixed with a little bit of
right.
What's the movie with the 2 brothers of Mice and Men, where you know what I'm saying? It was like, Lenny. I told y'all I didn't want to hurt anybody. And of course, this is my question to all these crazy coaches, to everybody. So again, we're at the pinnacle of everything when it comes to football, working out, sleep, everything. These guys are prime. And once you get these guys mad, and once you get a fight going, who's going to be the one to stick their face in there and start this thing over? You can't. You just got to let that stuff die out on its own. So I played with a bunch of menacing guys. I'm also thinking about some guys that played against, oh, man, who am I thinking about? From just passed away from the Dallas Cowboys. I apologize.
Larry Allen.
Larry Allen, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys I played against now, they're all skinny. So now I started to question myself, like, were they really tough or were they just kind of like inflated, inflamed, sugary, bloated guys that I just, had good feet at the time? But I always got plenty of good stories with that, man. A lot of LSU guys I played with too. Andrew Whitworth, a little bit older, Stephen Peterson, Bill Wilkerson. Crazy.
It makes it crazy enough to think that, LSU hasn't had an offensive lineman taken in the first round of the NFL draft since Alan Faneca in 98.
It's
wild. It's really
Faneca.
wild to think
Faneca.
that.
Yeah.
Whitworth was close. Yeah, I did end up like double checking. Yeah, second rounder. They've had a lot of good offensive linemen. The fact that we just haven't had one drafted from LSU since I was like 3 years old is mind numbing. But the 2 guys that they have that we're going to see tomorrow, I guarantee Will Campbell will be a first rounder. But going back to this matchup, talking LSU offensive line, South Carolina defensive line, I think Langston in the first 2 quarters of this game, we're going to see a lot of one-on-ones. We're going to see a lot of South Carolina trying to get home with 4. But if that doesn't happen, and let's just say, we start off the first quarter and a half of this game, and there's not been a single pressure on Nussmeier, and LSU's able to move the ball the way they want to, what are some ways that you think Clayton White can be able to either disguise blitzes or be able to get creative in terms of just getting somebody back into the backfield with Garrett Nussmeier? Because I think if they're not able to do that at any point in the game, that's where things can play into LSU's hands really well.
Yeah, one thing that we do, it could be an advantage or a disadvantage, and it definitely feels like an advantage when I'm using my college football PlayStation 2024, 2025 analysis.
Yes.
There's a lot of hybrid. There's been a lot of talk that we don't have certain size. We're a little bit too big to be a true corner, but a little bit too small to be linebackers, safeties. We have guys like Nick Immiure who are just physical freaks, but it feels like he probably should be a defensive end, but he just does phenomenal things like do pick six and run it. So it feels like we have a blend of a hybrid guys. And again, if the LSU offense isn't right, meaning they don't see the field and the quarterback maybe Nussmeier sees one thing and the protection sees another thing, we can do a lot of different things to manipulate sights and adjustments as far as who's coming. Because 22 Bam Scott looks like maybe a safety versus Nick. So again, playing with a lot of that and really checking to make sure that they've been on their study, their game tape, especially this early on. And that's why a lot of coaches, when you come into hostile environments, they don't want to play around with protections like that. They want to kind of keep it really black and white. They want to really establish the run game so we can eliminate a lot of that different stuff. Oh, I got these two offensive tackles. But it doesn't really matter if everybody's not seeing the field because it is going to be loud. It is going to be boisterous. There might be a mixture of rain, hot, all these different things going on. And until things settle down, it all can look like confusion. So I think you're right. We can get really, really effective by trying to get home with 4 and dropping everybody else in the coverage. That's a great deal, and using disguise as a coverage. But we can also, if things don't start to get really funky, and again, they've had some guys had to switch positions from wide receiver going to defense, going to running back, having to make sure that they're checking the progressions, protections. Even though these guys look good running the ball, the other part of the coin is protection. So I'm envisioning a lot of different things that we can do, just dictating and manipulating different things, because we do have a bunch of guys. When you're looking across the way, are those guys all safeties? Are those linebackers? And the easiest way to nullify any of that is to run the ball. But if you've already been stopping it and it's a true pass down, that's when we can really figure out different ways to utilize pass rush, pressure, disguise, all those things to our advantage, plus the home crowd to get on top of this LSU team and use it to our advantage.
Let me flip it over to you with the LSU defensive line. We, for as well as Carolina played last week, the Kentucky defense still got 12 tackles for loss against the Gamecock offense, Langston. So as you look at a team that's just deep and talented as LSU, and a guy that's in Coach Baker that's already given Carolina troubles when he was the DC at Mizzou, what do you see in terms of how, dare I ask, excited they are to go up against an offense that is still learning how to be better?
Yeah, definitely. That's how the defensive side of the football is going to position itself. Because, again, LSU won 20 games in the last 2 years. They had a Heisman Trophy candidate. But, like, when we think about it, it's like you don't – oh, yeah, that's right. LSU did have a Heisman winner last year. But there was no national championship talk about those different things, right? Might as well be, thinking about to the mid 1990s, like Joe DiNardo days. Those days were like they had a lot of good teams, but like always kind of an afterthought deal, and that's what it kind of feels. But that's not how LSU is going to position itself. The defensive side of the football, who has kind of been like the Achilles. So, like you said, Coach Baker has had a whole bunch of success against us at Missouri. He has a whole bunch of success with us against other teams. He's a Louisiana Tech guy who, again, that's Skip Holtz. There's a lot of different connections to this tree. And so for the most part, he's probably positioning himself that I got these guys. Not only do I have the program itself, but I got this guy, Shane Beamer, and the offense that he's run. Now, again, the offensive staff has changed. All these different things have changed. But I definitely feel that's the way he's probably positioned it to his defensive team, because there's always going to be a wealth of talent and all those different things. If you crack the code on how to get the talent out of LSU, God bless you, because you ain't sharing it with nobody else, because they still haven't figured out how to get maybe one guy every now and again will figure out a way to get up out of there, and they're doing it for like the Junction Boys at nighttime. But for LSU, they're going to figure out a way to take all of that talent. You can already see it right now. They're talking about moving Harold Perkins Jr. around. They want to move him further and further away from the line. Again, be smart. If the production goes down as he gets further and further away from the ball, get him closer. They've already talked about putting him into that vaunted kind of star hybrid linebacker, DJ Swearinger thing, Antonio Allen type of star linebacker kind of deal. And they're just going to move him all over the field so our offensive guys can't get a deal. Because to your point, Jay, there was a bunch of tackles for a loss, even though it didn't really show itself on the defensive score. 30-something points. But that is something that coach is in there telling them. Brian Kelly's probably pounding on the table. If we get on top of them, let's just be relentless with this. Harold, don't think about anything. You just crash the party. So again, kind of taking similar things that we've been successful with on defense so far this year. A lot of disruption in the backfield, but doing it in a different way with those guys because they have lost one of their more premier defensive tackles. But our point is this: if we can control the running game, if Rocket Sanders can get some stuff going, we calm all that stuff down because we have the advantage of being home. All of that stuff is for naught, and it's only a matter of time before guys start looking at each other like, man, this is not what it's supposed to be. I didn't come to LSU to have it be rolled up on me like that. But we got to get to that point first.
More from Langston as the postgame show rolls on live from Columbia Craft in the Vista. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah broadcasting live from Columbia Craft in the Vista. Our good friend Langston Moore on the phone line with us as we talk Carolina LSU and get into a few of Langston's thoughts on what's going on around the National Football League as well. Again, our buddy Alan Cole is here. He'll be joining us next hour talking some football and a few of the other things going on. And David Cloninger, top of the five. We'll have the picks contest, the wild card showdown. Around 5:30. Got some Akron tickets up for grabs for the winner.
And they are the
Zips.
There you go.
Used to be the Zippers.
Were they really the
Yeah,
Zippers?
true story. Look it up.
And they just shortened it to Zips.
Yeah.
Zips is cooler anyway.
Yeah, so at least that's what I've heard. Yeah, Zips is fun. I don't know what a zip is, but I know what a zipper is.
I do know what a zipper is.
Yeah, but that's another story for another day. Langston Moore, Buffalo Bills pretty good. I didn't see that one coming last night.
Didn't see that one coming, and didn't think that it would be the final, because it definitely feels like we need to close the book on Tua's career because of, Josh Allen, the record. Again, you put it in front of it, how many close games, but when you think about it, they've lost the playoff game up there with the backup quarterback. Of course, we had the couple seasons ago with the same deal, with Buffalo coming down there, having a hot game, but for the most part, Buffalo has owned them and owned that division since Tom Brady has vacated out of there. So, Buffalo Bills really good, but really, really sad to see that Tua went through that injury. It wasn't even really a helmet-to-helmet deal. It was like his helmet against the sternum, but it also just shows how fragile these things are. It reminds me of like a boxer. So they talk about a glass jaw, but like I hate to make it. It's the same. It's very glancing, and you as a franchise can't go through the whole week or put everybody else's deal up there to maybe him being out there in the game, being cleared, and all those different things, and then one blow or one phantom blow or something that we don't even see be the thing that just completely knocks this team out, which is going to do with this deal right here. And it's just really interesting with timing and all those different things. But yes, the Buffalo Bills are really good, and it's really sad to see that this happened to Tua, but this is the game. This is the deal. And I was asking somebody this question: would you rather be the Cleveland Browns with their quarterback situation, or the Tua with their situation with the Miami Dolphins? I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to ask. I do want to say before we get into anything else that every time Langston is with us, we want you to head over to athletesandartists.net. There you find all the latest information on what's going on with Just a Chicken Little, Used to Was a Rooster, the Button Gut Podcast, the Fight Podcast, how you can get Langston and Coach P, Preston Thorne, into a school or other speaking engagement near you, and verification from my co-host that today, Mr. Moore, I am wearing my Just a Chicken t-shirt.
He brought the merch.
Proudly displayed here at Columbia Craft. So the merch is on there as well. So athletesandartists.net. When are you next around so you can maybe like stop in and say hey and not be, we hadn't seen you since Dallas, man. It's been a while.
I know it's been a minute, man. Well, I will. Next weekend is Parents Weekend, and I'll be out there at Howard, DC. Catch me in the background. They'll be doing First Take. I'll be out there hanging out on campus this Parents Weekend. So feeling very Rodney Dangerfield, back to college, that type of deal. I'll be out there full force. And then the following week, I'll be back in town. We're doing a whole bunch of visits. So I'll definitely make sure we stop by on Friday.
All right, good enough. There you go. Well, have fun at Parents Weekend, man. Now listen, just take one handkerchief, disguise it accordingly. Do not let the daughter see it. The missus should be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And
just like
the thing,
say, Jay,
no, I'm sweating a little bit. I'm good.
Here's the thing, Jay. It's just me, so I might be fine because I can go and cry in the corner by myself. You know what I'm saying? So my wife is going off on a trip by herself. So she's like, "You go up there and refill everything and get her what she needs." I'm like, I'm gonna see her for 5 minutes, man. That's about it. I'm gonna see Stephen A. Smith longer than I'm gonna see my daughter up there at Parents Weekend next weekend.
Yeah, I would think. Now you don't. Yeah, you'll take her. She'll get you to take her out to dinner somewhere.
Oh yeah, definitely. But here's the thing: she's still working out, so I'm saving a little bit. But here's the thing about being young: you're not thinking. I'm thinking about, oh, she's going to be eating healthy. Nah, she's going to hit me up. She's going to get some steak out of me, a nice steak chop, something out of me. I already know. I can feel it already. My wallet feels.
All right,
she'll know where the expensive stuff is.
Yeah, I'll say Bobby Van's downtown is great. You'll love it if you like Cuban food. Cuba Libre downtown is great, and there's a couple of them in DC. a place called Founding Farmers. You will love it,
Yes.
man. It's like
She's already been there for brunch, Jay. I've already heard
it's great.
of this.
Founding Farmers is great. Check it out, man. Check it out.
We there, man.
Always good to have you. Remove the chains on Twitter, athletesandartists.net. See what happens tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you as always, sir.
Absolutely, man. Y'all be well.
That's Langston Moore, and hour number 2 is coming up. Tailgate season, hunting season, all upon us. So is back to school season. Time for a new vehicle in your family for any or all of those things. Well, there is no better place than Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union to finance your next vehicle. Palmetto Citizens offers terrific low rates on all new to 2021 models. They've got great rate options for older vehicles as well. And all have no payments for up to 90 days. You heard me right. Plus, they can finance over 100% of the retail or purchase price on new to 21 models. They've got some additional coverages and insurance options that dealerships simply cannot beat. So go shop for that new vehicle. Then check with Palmetto Citizens before you finance anywhere else and truly see how much you can save, because I'm telling you, they've got some really, really great options. My wife and I are members. We love what they've done for us. 14 locations and always online at palmettocitizens.org.
We start out with the wrecks this afternoon. Blackwood Road at I-77, Farrell Road at 277, Two Notch Road at O'Neill Court, Green Lawn at Garners Ferry, Whaley at Wayne, Highway 6 near Bush River Road, and also Augusta Road at South Lake Drive. This is Captain Dave.
By the team, just our fans, they're ready tonight. I know they'll be ready on Saturday, and need to create. We get the eyes of the nation will be on us. So excited for us to be able to showcase Williams-Brice Stadium. For us, we've got to be able to affect their quarterback, whether that's stopping the run, but it's also affecting him and being able to get pressure on him. And then certainly our offense, we've got to do a good job of just maintaining possessions and staying on the field and having positive runs and passes.
That was the Shane Beamer call-in show last night. Carolina Calls, coach's keys to the game. Try to affect Nussmeier as best you can, and cut down the negativity, if you will. Not like the
not the emotional.
Yeah,
negativity?
not the emotional.
No.
The literal, yardage negativity. Because even last week, 12 tackles for loss by Kentucky. So that's certainly a gigantic part of it. Welcome back in. Second hour of the post-game show coming at you from Columbia Craft in the Vista. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell. Alan Cole hanging out with us here from Gamecock Scoop. Jeff Haley is here. We just let Cale Wilson get out of here to go get ready for the high school show.
That's right. He's helping us with a big one tonight. River Bluff at Gilbert.
Yeah.
So if you're at that game tonight and you see a very tall kid in shorts walking around filming stuff and calling into a radio station, tell him you said hey.
Yeah. Or something else.
Anything.
No, don't, because Cale is like
Don't harass
the
him.
nicest guy. So
I was going to encourage somebody to pull a practical joke on him, but do not. He's too sweet for that.
Well,
I can't get myself to do it.
I went to college with Cale's mom, so I've known the family at least for a while. But Cale doesn't know me all that well, and like just now. Again, sometimes my sense of humor is very arid. I freely admit it is rather dry at times, especially if I want it to be. And I just said something that he completely fell for, and I was like, we gotta get Cale caught up to.
We got to get him on the inside bits. Yeah, we got to get him in on it.
But he was like, wait, what? I was like, no, dude. Yeah.
We go to break, and you're like, yep, that's the show.
That's
and
the
the look on his face was priceless. That was priceless. He's almost stunned. Like, wait a minute.
I thought you went to 6. We were like, it's all good, man. It's all good. No, Cale's a great kid. So that'll be tonight. You and Justin, 7:00.
That's right. 7 to 11. Another week of high school.
Is there more pizza?
Action.
How's that working for the crew?
My man Ed Bird brought pizza last time. It was delicious. I don't know if there's any pizza being brought tonight. But if anybody wants to bring us some pizza,
there's a vending machine downstairs.
You think there's pizza in that?
I don't know.
If there is, it's probably something.
Dave, pull your mic up real quick. Captain Dave there is running the board for us, and Dave is a frequent visitor to the vending machine. Do they have honey buns in there still? What else? What's good in the vending machine downstairs in our building, Dave?
Well, there's this new thing that they started putting in, and it's called Gushers. And it's like little candies. Yeah, and it's got some kind of like really sweet stuff inside of it. And I'm telling you, they sell out within a day. They're so good.
So brand new.
I like the fact that we don't even really know for sure what it is. It's a really sweet stuff.
Yeah, it's probably corn syrup with corn syrup and then corn syrup.
Sure.
Corn syrup.
Certainly.
And food coloring.
Great for your teeth.
Yes. Great for a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
New
there
candy
you go.
Gushers.
Well, let's get some of that. Yeah. Be all hopped up.
That's right. I mean, I do have to consume a lot of sugar. Keep me up and excited for the entire show.
We got more from Coach Beamer that we'll get to throughout the afternoon here. And David Cloninger going to join us in a bit. Alan Cole, as we said, is now hanging out with us here at the table at Columbia Craft. All right. You, like the rest of us, preparing for this game this weekend. And then the curveball gets thrown this morning. So Alan Cole's day changed how much? Around 9:30 or so?
Quite a bit. I'm on that board of trustees call this morning. You know, there's something coming because they don't call board of trustees meeting for nothing, but that comes and then it's AD news. It's what's happening. It's what's next. It's an impromptu media availability with Michael Emeritus that was scheduled about 20 minutes before it started. It's a curveball for sure on a pretty big weekend here.
So, I say we, and I know Elijah felt the same way, but we started the show. I'm not going to ask you for opinions on this. Okay. I'm asking you for reporting. That's what you're here for. We were critical of the timing. Let me ask what more you learned about why today was the day to announce this?
Elijah might have brought up the company line, I'll call it, the state-run media line from South Carolina from Ray Tanner today it's been in the works for a while. They've been talking about it since the summer, and you just didn't want it to get out. They wanted to announce it their way. That's why it came up today. I think Ray Tanner's line was, if more than one person knows it, it's not a secret. Okay, that's fine. I really wish I had a better answer for you on that. I know that's kind of why I'm here, but
it's not. That's fine. That's what they said. Was there anything else at the BOT meeting or any acknowledgement post meeting about an understanding of taking away from some of the spots what was shining on the university because of game day and the LSU contest?
That never came up, not from Emeritus, not from Ray Tanner, not from anybody else that was involved. I think this is just kind of, they felt like today was the day to do it, and maybe the positive interpretation of that is they had it in the works longer than 6 days, because even though game day was coming till late Saturday night, they wanted it to be this week. But there seemed to be a pretty big disconnect there between game days here, so they get to begin for the football program in a while, and you drop in a bombshell on that same day.
Definitely. And last thing on it too, because Jay and I talked, we don't want it to overshadow even like the show, but I mean, it's pretty big news. But the obvious question now is where you go from here. And I know the decision's not going to be made, or search isn't going to really start until about November. So we're kind of like in a weird limbo stage from now until the end of this, the school semester. But what's maybe some inklings that you have on the type of hire they might go after to fill Ray Tanner's shoes, considering that college athletics in general, not just football, but basketball, baseball, softball, it's in quite the pivotal point here in its history. And you're in a conference now that adds 2 universities that have incredible athletic departments and rich histories and multitude of sports.
I think the biggest thing I gathered, both from talking to people and what President Emeritus said today, was they want someone with AD experience, someone who's been in that chair before, someone who has been in that chair recently, someone who's worked with NIL, who's worked with the collective, who's done the fundraising thing. So that was kind of the biggest thing I took from that, is just that's still a pretty wide spec. I think this is going to be a desired job. It's an SEC AD position, everything that goes with it. But it's got to be someone who's been an AD, preferably been an AD recently. And even though I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker, like you wouldn't hire a group of 5 AD, but probably the higher the level, the better, is kind of what I would say. It's just someone who's done something close to what you have for this position.
Is there a genuine belief that this search won't start for 2 months?
No. I think I would be surprised if maybe you had a hire before then, but I don't think anybody's really buying that they're not making calls. At least the money people at South Carolina aren't, at least in back channels, trying to talk to people, because just call it what it is. That'd be irresponsible if you announced it today and you didn't even start looking at your candidates till the end of November.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if this was first known, I'm just throwing out a number 2 weeks ago, then your search started 13 days ago.
Right.
Like that's to me just the responsible thing to do. And again, the timing, the announcement is one thing. The timing of it, I do believe, was
befuddling,
unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Let's get into this football game, because it is huge. And, we've heard from Shane all week. We got to cut down on the negative plays. We pretty much know that this offensive line is going to remain the same, though. Dowell Loggins on Wednesday saying, hey, it's not all on the offensive line. What more are you learning this week about how they hope to begin to stem that particular tide of negative plays and get some things back on track?
I think a lot of it still comes back to the perimeter blocking Shane Beamer's talked about. I thought it was better last week, but you still, even the first drive of the game that gets taken away by a holding penalty by a receiver, you miss some other plays on the outside. So I think that's a big part of it. And also there's just the idea that you got to move some bodies, man. Like, I know that's maybe not analysis. That's not what, it's easier said than done, but I think the stat that's been going around this week is that Rocket Sanders leads the SEC in broken tackles through 2 weeks. So that's great. But he's also broken a lot of tackles on 2-yard runs, on 3-yard runs. You got to move some bodies, and it's not going to be easy to do against, a big, talented defensive line. But I think that's as much as anything is your guys just have to get more push than they've got the first 2 weeks up front.
And that's the crazy thing, too, is that when you watch, LSU on tape, the one thing that hasn't impressed me about them is the run defense, right? Like, they've got bodies there, and they bring in Blake Baker to be able to just get more out of them. right? I mean, like, it's not like they'll never have like a lack of talent at LSU, but sometimes the scheme's been really rough. And while I think they've gotten a lot better in the secondary, Nicholls State ran for a lot of yards against them. Southern Cal, got a lot of yards against them with a journeyman running back and an offensive line that is what it is. That seems like that's the pathway for South Carolina to win this game, is to be able to run the ball, but you can't do that if you're not getting any type of push up front. And we talk a lot about LSU's offensive line, South Carolina's defensive line. That's like the good on good matchup. In a way, this is the not as good versus not as good matchup, because this is kind of like the weakness of both, South Carolina's offense and LSU's defense.
Yeah, I think you saw maybe some positive signs in the running game in the second half last week. Rocket breaks the big run that was originally called a touchdown. He's ruled out of bounds at the 1 yard line. He had a couple other bursts. You had one really good pop with the quarterback run when Robbie Ashford was in the game. You got some push on that play. But I think that's kind of where you have to stick this. And look, it's going to take time. It doesn't mean you can't get there in October and November, but your passing game, your young quarterback, your wide receivers, you're just not at a point right now where I think you can drive back and throw the ball 30, 40 times in a game. I just don't think you're there. And that's going to put a lot of burden on Rocket Sanders, this running game in particular.
When you look at where this wide receiving core is right now, 4 guys catch passes last week, 2 just receivers, the other 2 tight ends. Elijah and I talked about it a lot going into the Kentucky game. Was the narrowing of the focus of that particular group going to be as much about catching the football as what they do without the football? Where is that? I mean, I expect more than 4 guys perhaps to catch passes tomorrow, but are they really looking at the effort part of this as much as anything else?
Yes, I think absolutely. And especially when you're talking about an offense that's still, like I said, the bread and butter is going to be run the ball. We've heard ground and pound since August. We've heard, Rocket Sanders just isn't here to pass protect. He is, but you know what I mean? Like, he's here to run the ball. And when you're running the ball, when you're doing the outside zone stuff, obviously your receivers, your tight ends have to be able to block. And yeah, I thought it was incredibly telling on the Sunday teleconference that Shane Beamer said that actually gave us a definition of their top 2 receivers right now. He said it's Mazeo Bennett and it's Jared Brown. And we haven't even heard that at any point during preseason, any kind of a top 2. And maybe you'd like a top 3, a top 4 at this point in the season. But I think they're at least honing in on some things they want. And they feel like, even if they wouldn't maybe say it in a press conference or whatever, they feel like there's at least a little bit of separation at the top right now. And it's like you said, the 2 guys who caught passes in that room last weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, they got throwing the ball. Norris Sellers looked a lot more comfortable against Kentucky than he did against Old Dominion. I think that just kind of pay credence to his evaluation of himself that, yeah, it was a nerves thing against Old Dominion. And I think it does kind of feel like a little bit they're discovering the type of throws he feels comfortable making, including the touchdown to Mazeo where he's on the run and on a rollout. But in terms of like decision making and just him as a quarterback, what about his performance against Kentucky do you find probably to be the most sustainable?
Sustainable, that's a good question. I think that maybe the most sustainable thing is that he found a way to make a few plays when it counted. He was good with his feet. I'm thinking of the 2 third downs in the second half, both on touchdown drives. You have a 3rd and 14 there, a 3rd and 11. He gets flushed out of the pocket both times. He finds a receiver both times. I think it was Mazeo 1 and Jared Brown the other. I think if you're looking for something encouraging to build on, sustainable, to use your word, is those moments weren't too big for him, and he kind of trusted what he's good at, right? Using his feet, using his legs, extending a play. When you got into crunch time, I don't want to call it crunch time. It was the 3rd quarter of what turned out to be a blowout. But when you got into some bigger spots, Lenore Sellers stuck with what's got him there, and it worked out for you.
Alan Cole is with us here, GamecockScoop.com, the rival site that covers Carolina football. He'll be hanging out with us for a little bit more here. DC coming up in just a bit, Wild Card Showdown. Time now for us to do our second pair of tickets for tomorrow's sold-out LSU football game. Carolina LSU noon. You want to go, don't have seats? Well, Jeff has a pair for you. Come say hey to us. We're here at Columbia Craft, so come say hey. Find us in the corner inside, and Jeff will give you a ticket. You don't have to do anything else. If you want to compliment Jeff on his new haircut, I mean, you can do that.
You tell him he's handsome, he might give you 2 pairs of tickets.
Yeah, I don't know. That's up to Jeff. I don't know. We'll see. Lots more to do as we broadcast live from Columbia Craft. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Minuteman Press, just a couple of blocks away from us on Gervais Street in downtown Columbia. The old Apex Graphics, 30-year history in downtown Columbia, expanding now beyond printing to take care of all kinds of marketing and advertising needs. If your business needs promotional products, you need customized hats, shirts, screen printing, laser engraving, signs, banners. In fact, they've got more than 300,000 items, business cards, greeting cards, especially for the holidays. They're a national franchise with over 900 locations, incredible buying power for their vendors. Soon they'll have a showroom. You can go in and see a lot of what they do. They've got great local ownership. Ken and Anna Holloway, both Carolina graduates, ready to help you out. The same great staff with over 60 years of combined experience, terrific customer service, and a very friendly staff. They're at 1415 Gervais Street, right downtown. 779-7660 is the phone number, and always online at Minuteman.com. Yes, sir. Thank you. We got another beer next hour. All right, welcome back into the post-game show here on a Friday afternoon. Jay and Elijah with you, broadcasting live inside at Columbia Craft. Plenty of to-go beer for the game, or really for any reason.
Did you say to-go beer?
I did say to-go beer, as in you can come in here, and it's not like you have to just get like a glass. Like you don't have to bring your own solo cup.
Sir.
Like they got cans, man.
You had my curiosity.
Yep.
Now you have my attention.
Yeah. They can pretty much get like a growler can or whatever you want, but they got plenty of to-go beers. I see several selections. Jeff is blocking some of the refrigerator, but I see beer in there. In
I
cans.
do see them in cans.
Yep.
Look at that.
After
love
the
to-go
game, they'll
beer.
be open. Kitchen's going to be open tomorrow at 5. So game should be over by 5, unless it's like, one of them crazy overtime games.
If we get into 15 overtimes with the 2-point conversion contest at the end, I mean, honestly, I won't be mad at it because that would be kind of fun. But I highly doubt that actually ends up happening.
Alan Cole is with us, who's a beat writer, and just did the don't even
joke about
don't
that,
even
Elijah.
speak
Don't
it into existence.
That's how Illinois Penn State happens.
And
And
then
you're 9 overtimes deep.
2 weeks from tomorrow here, Oktoberfest. You can start your day with Columbia Crafts Oktoberfest. It begins at 12. They'll have their new Oktoberfest brew out and ready to go,
Oh, that sounds
and a lot more
marvelous.
fun. Live music, traditional games and food, and people doing terrible German accents.
Like we do.
Well, it doesn't say that on here, but
It says on my notes that we loves the German.
that's right. So there's
That's what
there's
my notes
that.
say.
But
I don't know about yours.
come on over. So again, if you just want to have a beer like now, you can. You want to take some with you, you can. Both things can be true.
They're beers and to-go beers.
Look at that. It's that
This
easy.
place has it all.
Shout out to Taylor hanging out here, coming
Yeah.
to say hey. Works across the river at the legendary D's Wings.
Which I still haven't been to yet. I'm very disappointed in myself that I haven't been to because it's been recommended to me, and I'm a wing connoisseur. I live for that. I live.
It's hard
for
to
good
tell if a
wings.
place is any good when it's been open for nearly 30 years.
Yeah, something has to be going right, and the wings are in the name. So I
So-
mean, logic would tell me that
Yeah,
it is calling for me
They're fighting for a spot in town after 3 decades. But hey, it's
in a growing city in a rather growing state. Yeah,
I say that obviously in jest, having been many times through the years. So Taylor, thank you for coming by, buddy. Appreciate that. And we did give away our tickets. So we just had a couple of disappointed faces. Sorry, but we will have one more pair to give away, I believe, in the next hour.
Yes, as much as we are used to disappointing people, we
That's
will not in the next hour.
Yeah, we'll still disappoint you, just not maybe hopefully over tickets.
Hopefully over something else.
Yeah, whatever it might be. Alan is with us again, GamecockScoop.com, rival site covering Carolina. All right, so we've kind of given you some of our things. What's Alan Cole's maybe number one storyline focus tomorrow?
For me, I want to see how the secondary stands up to LSU's passing game. I think what have we heard pretty much since January, right? You've got 2 safeties who are experienced, they can DQ. You got, this is O'Donnell Fortune's quarterback room now. He's the experienced guy. Jalen Kilgore was an all-SEC freshman last year and, looked pretty good against Old Dominion other than the one explosive play in the first quarter. And they didn't have to do a whole lot last week because the pass rush kind of took care of itself. But this is maybe the best passing game overall you're going to see all year outside of Ole Miss. You can argue it's the best passing game, period. How are you going to stand up? I think they've heard a lot about last season. I think a lot of people here still think about the Florida game last year, the Missouri game last year, the problems you had containing explosive plays. And I want to see how an experienced group holds up in a game where, let's face it, even if your pass rush does well, that LSU line's still pretty good. Nussmeier's going to have some clean pockets, and they're going to have to make some plays.
That's something Jay posed a really interesting question yesterday on the show, that if the LSU offensive line, South Carolina defensive line matchup is a push, then let's just say that's, South Carolina gets there, hurries Nussmeier 3 or 4 times, maybe gets 1 or 2 sacks. Who does that benefit more significantly? If it's just a push, right? Like South Carolina's able to get some, LSU is able to at least keep Nussmeier somewhat protected.
I think it benefits LSU if it's a push, just because LSU has more things around that strength that you feel comfortable with, that the quarterback play, the wide receiver play, the tight end Taylor's pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the onus is more on South Carolina's defensive line to win that matchup than LSU's offensive line, just because that's kind of been the identity of this team through 2 weeks. And you have some things you feel good about, one of them being the secondary, but you don't really have a lot of concrete yet about this team that is good besides that defensive line.
I don't ask this question because I think Rocket Sanders is doing anything poorly. I think he's actually done pretty well considering some of the things that are out there. But anything more that you're hearing about just working others into that rotation, maybe a 2-back set from time to time for a variety to show something different, help with protection? Are there different things that they might be wanting to do with because they got a deep running back stable?
Yeah, I just don't think it's there right now. I don't think Oscar Attaway is at the point right now where you feel comfortable with him. We didn't see him get a single carry before garbage time last week, and I think he only had 4 against Old Dominion. DJ Braswell didn't even travel last week. I thought that was kind of surprising. Jordan Howell only played on special teams. I just don't know if there's some of it's that Rockets played well, like you said, but I don't know if there's the level of trust right now with the rest of that running back room that you need to have to feel comfortable throwing them out there against LSU. I don't think this is the week for that. Maybe is the better way of going at it.
And so does that basically turn Lenoris in? I mean, pretty obviously, I guess I'm asking into the second best running option. And is he even a 1B for tomorrow?
As long as the hip's healthy, I think that was another thing coming out of last week is he only had, I think it was 4 design runs after he had 22 carries the week before. Some of those were scrambles. Sure. But as long as that hip, and he did miss a quarter of the game last week, but as long as that hip's healthy, as long as he's ready to go, then yeah, I think Lenore Sellers is definitely your second best running option. And you know what? Robbie Ashford might be your third best.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. That's which kind of leads me to believe that we might see more Robbie Ashford in certain positions on the field, despite Lenoris being like obviously the full-time starter. Your quarterback running is one of your biggest strengths on offense because, I mean, Lenoris did run the ball pretty well against Old Dominion, even though you don't want him carrying the ball 24 times. But Robbie Ashford had your second best run on Saturday against Kentucky. And having another quarterback you can put in
up
there.
the middle.
It was big play, too. Got him into the red zone,
Yeah.
got points on that drive.
Yeah, Robbie Ashford helped lead you to some points. I don't see why, you couldn't, even with Lenoris being healthy, putting Robbie Ashford out there for maybe a third and short, because even if you need him to pull back and pass, maybe something like a slant or a cross or something like that, he can do that. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to utilize him at some point during the game.
No, and you saw that once last week after Sellers came back into the game. They brought in Robbie Ashford for a package in the third quarter. That particular play didn't go well, but I think the general idea that Robbie Ashford could take some of the load off Lenore Sellers, he can provide a different look, that he can give him a breather every now and then if, there's anything at all, which I to be clear, I think he's fine. He practiced all week. I think he's ready to go, but still just a different look. And again, this is what you brought Robbie Ashford here for. He's not there to sit. He's not there to hold a clipboard. He's there if obviously if Lenoris gets hurt like last week, but he's here to help you win football games if you think he can. And he's been on the field last week. And I don't know. I don't have a snap count number in mind, but I think it'd be silly not to have him out there at least a little bit this weekend.
On that note, Captain Dave, if you would please, sir, cut number 5 on today's list. Here is Shane Beamer from Carolina Calls last night on Lenoris Sellers being asked to run on purpose.
4, because it means Rocket's running it a lot if Lenoris isn't. But no, Lenoris is fine. I was worried about him waking up on Sunday morning and being really sore. I told you that when you and I taped the TV show in Lexington after the game. But he actually woke up on Sunday and felt great and has been good this week in practice as well. So no issues there for him. We'll see. I mean, obviously we don't want to run him 22 times, but we're going to do what we need to do to win the football game. But no, he's health-wise, he's been good. He hasn't missed we practice on Sunday nights, and he took every rep in practice on Sunday night and has taken every rep in practice this week when he was supposed to be in there.
It does feel to me like we may see a little bit more of what we saw against Old Dominion, and which isn't necessarily by design in terms of, I mean, I'm with you guys. You don't want to see it 22 times, and that's what Shane just echoed as well, Alan, but LSU is going to want to get after him.
Yeah, I think that's one of the weapons you have for sure. And again, it goes back to the conversation last segment, but as long as your wide receiver room is still in this kind of murky state where maybe you have 2 guys you trust, or maybe it's 3 and, nobody's really stretching the field right now, I think you have to get Lenore Sellers outside the pocket, get him moving. And really, I would argue his 2 best throws last week were both outside the pocket, both when he was on the move. So even if the idea isn't to run him, the showing him running, getting him moving a defense around, I think is something you need to take advantage of this weekend, or at least try to.
More with Alan here this afternoon. David Cloninger coming up in a bit. And again, about an hour from now, we'll pull 2 of you onto the phone lines to play this week's edition of the Wild Card Showdown. So far, listeners are 2 for 2.
That's right. We're winless against the listeners.
So
we're a second half show.
But we've needed the tiebreakers each week. So that's been a thing. So it's been tight.
We've been scary good on tiebreakers.
Yeah. Lots more to do as we broadcast live from Columbia Craft in the Vista on this Friday afternoon. It's the postgame show.
A lot of wrecks on the roads. We got Blythewood Road at I-77, Fair Road at 277, Two Notch at O'Neill Court, 77 northbound at Garner's Ferry, Green Lawn at Garner's Ferry, Whaley at Wayne, Pendleton at Sumter, and Lake Murray Boulevard at North Lake Drive, and Platte Springs Road at South Lake Drive, and one that just happened seconds ago, Old Cherokee Road at Wise Ferry.
$25 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. The post-game show rolling along from Columbia Craft in the Vista. Come out and say hey. Again, next hour we will give away our final pair of Carolina LSU tickets. A sold-out Williams-Brice Stadium. Game day in town. Again, if you need some of the logistical things, all Carolina-run parking areas will open at 6. The first, I think, broadcasts from the game day set will be like they're in Sports Center at like 7:30. Game day starts at 9. They're there 9 to 11. I know Shane's going to stop by for a second. That's what I've heard. Mm-hmm. Mayor Rickenman is giving Lee Corso a key to the city.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I want a key to the city.
I do too.
What is it open?
I assumed everything.
I
assume it's just a universal key. You can get in there where you want.
Dawn's going to hang around for a bit. Did I see that Darius Rucker is coming?
Yeah, I assumed he was. Yeah,
he is. They said he's doing a special performance on game day, whatever that means.
Okay, all right. So there's that, and then Dawn is the celebrity picker, so she'll be with them at the table in Gamecock Park in the 10, and then back inside during the 11 for the picks. So there's all of that for you. And again, students, the first shuttles leaving the Russell House at 5:45 a.m.
Bright and early.
And Jeff Crane telling us there's breakfast for you kids.
That's right. And if anybody, I've had a couple people ask me, like, what time do I need to start getting down there? And I said, what time are you thinking about? And they'll give me whatever time. And it's a universal response. No matter what time you give me, I'm saying, no, go earlier. Go an hour earlier. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a madhouse. This is a very big deal. College game day takes up a lot of space. It's a very big production. It's about normal space that you'd normally have for Saturdays, not as much. So make sure you get there early and you check out as much as you can. The college game day does not come to your school every week.
And if you are a Carolina student, unless you're on one of them really extended plans,
like I was,
then even you weren't in college that long. Neither was I. I
wasn't quite Van Wilder long, but
chances are, if you're in college now, the last time that game day was here, you were in like middle school.
Yeah, pretty much. I was fresh out of high school last time I was here.
Yeah, so there you go. Carolina is plus 6.5, over under 48.5. And the brand new FPI this morning, I guess they ran 10,000 more simulations last night.
That thing never stops working.
49.4% for Carolina. It's nearly a 50-50, Elijah. What happened in the newest simulations to add better than a percentage point to Carolina's chances?
That's a really good question. I know what could happen. 10,000 more projections.
Okay.
Law of averages. It can change.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know I don't know what they feed into it. Like here, computer spit it out.
It's like, if I flip a coin, 100,000 times and I get the same result, I can flip it 100,000 more times and get very different results. And it kind of evens out. So maybe that's just what's happening right now. If it's supposed to be that close to the game, which I could definitely see it being a pretty close game. There's a pathway for it to be a really close game.
Yeah, I said on our staff picks, 27-23, Alan Cole is with us, Gamecocks. So I said there's a little hope involved in that, perhaps. And maybe that's the alum in me coming out. But Elijah's right. There's a path. But if LSU exploits what Carolina can't do well up front early, what you don't want to do is have to dig out of a deep hole, right?
Yeah, I think the doomsday scenario for South Carolina is anything that involves LSU hitting explosive play early, hitting a couple explosive plays early, and you look up and there's 6 minutes to go in the first quarter and it's 14-0.
Right.
I just don't think you're equipped to dig out of a hole like that. Obviously that would take the crowd out of the game. That goes without saying, but I just don't think you can. LSU's offense does have problems, the running game, whatever. They can still hit a deep ball, and that's kind of what goes back to last segment. I'm looking at the secondary. I think it's a game they need to step up because if you give up you need to give up 2 explosive plays all day. If they're both early, that might knock you out right there.
Yeah, certainly. That's why, when I look at LSU's offense, there's a lot of that explosiveness. But Garrett Nussmeier, even in his short time as a starter at LSU, has fantastic chemistry with 2 guys in particular, and that's Kyron Lacey and Mason Taylor. Those guys make up for almost 44% of the target share for this team. I mean, they rely heavily on those 2 in the passing game. Mason Taylor's a little more of an enigma, I guess, defensively when you're trying to figure out how to keep him in check because he does so many different things as a tight end. But one thing that I'm expecting that I really want to watch for as well is O'Donnell Fortune versus Kyron Lacey. I've kind of assumed that that's going to be O'Donnell Fortune's main assignment. Put him in cat coverage and be like, if I'm South Carolina, I'm telling O'Donnell Fortune, look, follow Kyron Lacey around the entire field, follow him to the bathroom, come back and tell me what color underwear he's wearing. Get really up close and personal. How do you kind of see that one going and how South Carolina might deploy O'Donnell for a matchup like Kyron Lacey?
Yeah, I think the other thing, too, is there's been so much talk about this D-line against LSU's offensive line. Well, South Carolina's been getting home with 4, even getting home with 3 for the first 2 weeks. I just don't think you're going to be able to do that consistently in this game. You're going to have to bring a 5th guy, maybe even a 6th, and you're right. Exactly what that creates is these one-on-one matchups, these islands on the outside, these best-on-best in this case with Lacey against O'Donnell Fortune. It's funny, I was talking about this with someone yesterday where it's like, you think about South Carolina secondary and you like the motor, you like some of the coming up and run stopping. Bakari Swain had a sack last week. And you feel like they're pretty good kind of over the top, but just the pure man-to-man coverage, I think maybe we still have some questions. And if you can keep a lid on it, your 2 safeties especially, I think you still have a good chance in this game. But I could see Nussmeier hitting you with quite a bit of the dink and dunk stuff this weekend.
On that note, Captain Dave, cut number 9 on today's list, please, sir. Again, more from Shane last night on Carolina Calls. The attitude, the effort that he's looking for from his defense tomorrow afternoon.
That play for one another, and they're playing with great effort right now. And I think I said this in the press conference on Tuesday, but after the game, I had text messages from a NFL head coach, NFL general manager, college basketball head coach, NBA assistant coach, and an ESPN analyst that does college basketball. And all of them, none of it was like, man, you got a great team. You're so talented. Congrats on the win. All 5 were, I love the way that football team, meaning us, I love the way y'all play, just with the effort and the togetherness and having fun and supporting one another. And as a coach, you appreciate hearing that from other people that are in the profession. And I told our players on Tuesday, or Sunday, it's fun watching them, and we've only had 2 games. Don't get me wrong. We got a lot of work to do, but it's just fun watching the way they play on Saturdays. And not just that, but the way they practice during the week. I mean, they're a really fun group to be around. They really are.
That's got to matter at some point. But to the question I asked Alan earlier, Elijah, if you get popped in the mouth early, how do you respond? And I have every reason to believe, to Alan's point, that LSU will want to pop you in the mouth as quickly as possible.
Because you want to get that crowd out of the
Yeah.
game, man. Like, I mean, with College Game Day, with a stadium like Williams-Brice, with the type of stadium atmosphere it's been known for, the last thing you want for someone like Garrett Nussmeier, who is making his first true road start in his entire college football career. Think about it, even in the games that he's played, not even just started, just the games that Garrett Nussmeier has appeared in. We're talking in relief in the SEC championship game, bowl game, and there's not a ton there in home games. Like, he's never actually had to go on the road and take somebody out. And if you get 2 quarters into this game, we're going to the halftime break, and it's a 1-score game, and South Carolina, has a chance to make this a game late or in the second half, like, it's going to get hostile. It's going to be incredibly loud. And the one thing that LSU's going to want to do is make him as comfortable as possible. And the way to do that is Allen's nightmare scenario, where you come back out and you bust him over the top for a few big plays and try to get the place to quiet down as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the number one MO tomorrow. More from Allen coming up just a second here. We'll also let him partake in today's drive around the SEC. 2 more conference games, but a couple of very interesting non-con matchups as well. You're listening to the Friday Postgame Show. Welcome back in. 12 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Jay and Elijah. Alan is hanging out with us. That's Alan Cole of GamecockScoop.com. David Cloninger coming up in just a bit. And time for a quick drive around the SEC. All right, guys. A&M at Florida. We've talked a lot about this one. 2 quarterbacks. Let's get Alan's take on this.
Anxiety Bowl.
We've basically said we've kind of gone with the old adage of if you're playing 2 quarterbacks, it's because you don't have one. Is that where Billy Napier is, or is he at this point just like, you know what, man, screw it, I don't care?
I think Billy Napier's at the I will try literally anything. I need something to work right now phase. Whether that's quarterback change, but no, I mean it. Like I think you said the word anxiety bowl. I think it's right there. Like I don't know. We've all seen Florida's schedule. We've already saw Florida played week 1. Like if you lose this one, if you're Florida, you've already dropped 2 home games in the first half of September. Like could you say Billy Napier's coaching for his job tomorrow? I mean, he's not going to get fired this Sunday, but like in general, like.
Oh, I think if they could be bad
lose
enough,
if they lose like they did to Miami,
I
think he might, man.
This Sunday,
I think he might. If it's not a competitive game, a loss is one thing.
Getting smacked up again,
but if you get rolled at home again, to your point about being at home, that really, I don't know, that could be it. Carolina beat Kentucky by 25 points. Georgia only a 22-point favorite. They're going to cover that, right?
Oh, I think so. I absolutely think so. Like,
the thing is, it dropped too. So it opened at 21, rose to 24, and today is at 22.
Always trust the first movement of the line because that's when the sharps bet.
Yeah,
the sharps always bet early on in the week.
Is that just the idea that like Kentucky can't possibly be that bad? There's going to be some kind of reaction from that defense. Like I don't know. I'm with you. I think Georgia wins and covers up there. I don't know. Kentucky's got to show a pulse, right?
Something.
Yeah.
Something. Like, especially on offense, man. Like, I mean, that's the thing is if that offensive line, and as good as South Carolina's defensive line is, if they can't keep Brock Vandagriff, the
Brock Vandagriff revenge game, you got to factor that in.
Exactly. Maybe Kentucky doesn't give up on passing the ball 2.5.
I just wonder if Georgia doesn't look at that and go, "Oh, you left, huh? All right. How you doing? Good to see you." And he grew up like a county over.
Oh yeah,
from Athens. So.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
It'd be soul crushing for him to lose by 30 when
those are the only 2 conference games. Boston College is at Missouri. This turned into a sneaky ranked game when we were kind of ragging on Missouri's like, oh, you got your mandatory Power 4 game against Boston College. It's Mizzou minus 15.5 though.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how Missouri deals with a running quarterback. Castellanos at Boston College obviously tore up Florida State in that first game. Just kind of, Missouri hasn't given up a point yet, right? It was shutouts against Buffalo and Murray State. Mm-hmm. Just seeing them get tested a little bit on defense, even though I think Missouri probably still wins the game.
Yeah, I think Missouri's going to win it, but I might secretly be pulling for Boston College.
Yeah, maybe so.
I don't know if I can keep that a secret as I broadcast.
I think that cat went out of the bag like months ago just by talking about your reluctance to accept Missouri as being good 2 years in a row.
As Ray Tanner told us today, if more than one person knows it, it's not a secret.
There you go, then.
Too bad. Yeah, thankfully we're not on radio. So.
Alabama at Wisconsin. The Badgers are plus 16 at home. Again, I'm not pulling for or against anything, and I do believe Alabama is going to win this game, but I'd like to see Wisconsin make this an event worthy of our attention.
Yeah.
And I know we can't really watch much of this because we'll be watching the game we'll cover, so we'll have to pay attention, peripherally. But, I don't want to see Bama go there and blow them out. Yeah,
well, especially for if you're a Wisconsin fan, too. This is year 2 of Luke Fickell. It's time to see some proof of concept here that what he's going to bring to the table can work and that he can coach at a place where you're going to expect to be actually favored a little more than, at a place like Cincinnati. Like it's time to show something here. And that's why, I think that environment for a game of this magnitude, I actually expect them to keep it within that 16.5. And Alabama showed a lot of vulnerability against South Florida for a good chunk of that game. I mean, South Florida was able to move the ball way too well. And Alabama against South Florida's defense, which isn't like their forte, just played around too much. And you can't play around too much against a Luke Fickell coached defense.
Yeah, I still think that last year and this year, I know I'm crazy, but I just think Bama looks at South Florida and it's like, all right, practice week.
Championship teams don't do that.
We're good.
He's got a point.
Championship teams don't do it.
Finally, Ole Miss at Wake. It's Wake at home plus 21.5, and then New Mexico going to Auburn. Auburn minus 28. I like Ole Miss's chances to cover on the road better than I like Auburn's chance to cover at home.
I don't even like Auburn's chance to score 20. You said 28, right?
Yeah.
28 points.
Yeah. You got to score 28 to cover by it. Yeah,
you made the quarterback change this week. Was it Peyton Thorne threw 4 interceptions last week against Cal? I just think that offense is kind of broken right now at Auburn, and I would still expect them to beat New Mexico, but I don't know, man. I don't even know what you're learning either about yourself in that game other than just maybe cut down the mistakes.
Yeah, if you can. But that's kind of been the whole Auburn thing since Hugh Freeze taken over this last year and 2 games is that you have got nothing figured out the quarterback position. And I think we're learning a lesson. You can get all the really cool high-end, recruit wide receivers and transfers like Keandre Lambert-Smith. You can get all those in the world, but the ball got to get there somehow. Yeah. And they learned that lesson the hard way against Cal last Saturday.
Everybody else is in action, but almost every other game is an easy spread. And if the SEC team doesn't win, then that'll be news on Monday. Let's put it that way.
Certainly.
So there's that for you. But again, the Bama-Wisconsin game, I love the name matchup. I'd like that to be a good game.
Yeah, and I think we all know what Alabama's got for the most part, an incredibly talented team that might be working through some kinks with a new coach, but I think the bigger question, just from a national perspective, is if we can't see Wisconsin be competitive after a year of Fickle, then and Alabama goes in there and just steamrolls them, can they ever get back to a level they were in the past where they can be a consistent top 15 to 20 team every year?
And you're going to make them say, why didn't we hire Kalen DeBoer?
That's right. Yeah.
Something like that. Alan, thanks for coming by, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Alan Cole, Alan _ Cole.
That's it. You got it.
On the Twitters and GamecockScoop.com. All right, we'll talk to you again here real soon. David Cloninger coming up. More from Shane Beamer. Picks contest and another opportunity to win tickets to tomorrow's game. All that in the final hour of the postgame show live from Columbia Craft in the Vista. Be right back. Guys, when you're not feeling like yourself as you get a little bit older, you start to wonder why. Like, what's up with me? Is there something I can do about it? Or should I just wait for it to go away? I'll sleep it off. Nah, you don't wait for it to change or go away. Instead, you need to call Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. Dan and the crew will sit down with you and get to know you, literally get to talk with you about everything that you do every day. Where are those gaps? What are your habits like? What's changed? Where are you feeling off? And then they'll get you back to feeling like yourself again. No such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment at the Men's Clinic. So, again, don't be that guy that wants to tough it out. See Dan and his crew, experts in healthcare for men, dedicated to making you feel like yourself again. They have done this for hundreds and hundreds of patients over the years, and they're ready to help you out too. Set up that consultation, 803-875-MENS. That's the phone number, and you can learn more right now at themensclinicsc.com.
All right, a lot of wrecks on the road still this afternoon. We got Old Orangeburg at Platte Springs, Old Chapin at Maxey, Carly Mill Road near River Chase, Old Cherokee at Wise Ferry, Platte Springs at South Lake Drive, Lake Murray Boulevard at North Lake Drive, Pendleton at Sumter, 77 North at Garner's Ferry Road, and Blythewood Road at I-77.
Five o'clock on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the final hour of the post-game show, a Football Friday edition. We are live at Columbia Craft in the Vista, just blocks away from Colonial Life Arena, from the baseball stadium. And if I looked around the corner and got up on a roof, I could probably see Williams-Brice too. That's it's not all that far away at this point, but we got a lot going on here today. Thanks again to Alan for joining us, and Langston in the first hour. Now our very good friend David Clonic